David Carter stood at the corner of Main Street, right in the heart of Dallas, Texas. The hustle and bustle of people passing by in the late southern autumn sun, with dry gusts of wind carrying the aroma of roasted coffee from a nearby cafe. He pulled the brim of his gray baseball cap lower, partly obscuring his face. On him was only a simple black jacket, dark jeans, and slightly worn sneakers, nothing like the usual image of the owner of a luxury fashion brand chain. In front of him stood a 4-story building with gleaming glass frontage, the golden letters Carter & Co., shining against a granite backdrop. Through the large glass doors, he could see the lavish interior, white marble floors, velvet sofas, warm lighting reflecting off display counters. Shoppers exit carrying gold embossed logo bags, walking with the confidence of people fresh from a fashion show. David took a deep breath, then pushed open the heavy glass door. A soft chime sounded, announcing a customer's arrival. The scent of expensive French perfume blended with the smooth notes of jazz enveloped him instantly. This was a space he had personally designed to exude luxury while feeling welcoming. But today, he wasn't here as the owner. He was here as an ordinary customer. He had done this in many other branches, but this one was special. It was his very first store in Texas and his pride and joy. He wanted to see for himself how the staff and management treated customers when they didn't know who he was. David strolled slowly to the luxury watch display. He picked up a brown leather-strapped, silver-faced timepiece, one he knew well, having personally approved it from the start. But today, he was just a casually dressed man admiring an expensive item. From the corner of his eye, he saw a middle-aged man approaching, Franklin Moore, the franchise owner of this store. Franklin wore a navy suit, his midsection slightly bulging, with neatly combed graying hair. While chatting amiably with a woman in a designer dress, he glanced at David. The polite smile vanished, replaced with a faint frown. David pretended not to notice and asked casually, "Excuse me, could you tell me more about this watch?" Franklin walked over slowly, his eyes scanning David from head to toe. His voice was curt, devoid of warmth. "This is a limited edition, very rare. Might not be what you're looking for." David smiled lightly, keeping his voice calm. "Why not?" Franklin raised an eyebrow. "It's a very high-end model. The price is not cheap. Perhaps you prefer to look at some other pieces more within your range." A flicker of irritation rose inside David, but he nodded slightly. He pressed on, "I like high-end pieces. What makes this one special?" Franklin exhaled as if forced to explain something tiresome. "Made by a Swiss master watchmaker, using top-tier materials with unmatched craftsmanship. Only a few pieces are sold worldwide." "Sounds great. How much is it?" David asked. Franklin hesitated, then replied, $122,000. He stressed the number, then added, "But as I said, we have many other options more affordable." David set the watch back into the display case, his gaze cooling. He asked plainly, "And if I wanted to buy this one?" Franklin's face tightened with annoyance. "I'd need proof of payment first. We don't just let anyone walk out with our finest merchandise." David drew a deep breath to steady himself, then asked slowly, "So, the store's policy is to verify the ability to pay before making a sale?" Franklin replied stiffly, "It's not about verifying. It's about protecting the brand and the store's image. We don't let just anyone handle our goods." David held Franklin's gaze for a few seconds, then turned away. "I see." He stepped toward the door, the chime ringing softly behind him. But as he merged back into the flow of people outside, he knew this wasn't over. What he'd just experienced made his blood run hot, and he would be back. David Carter stood outside the store for several minutes, trying to calm himself. He had come to observe how customers were treated, but what had just happened went far beyond what he'd imagined. He didn't want to draw conclusions from just one encounter. He needed to know if this was a habit or a one-off incident. He inhaled deeply, turned back, and pushed the glass door open once again. The chime rang out, sounding sharper, longer this time. This time, David didn't wander around. He walked straight to the coat display near the checkout counter, where Franklin Moore was still standing, now hunched over his phone. When he looked up and saw David, his expression tightened, just like before. No hint of surprise or warmth. David ran his hand over a charcoal long coat, the fabric smooth and thick, the stitching impeccable, exactly the kind of style he favored for the fall collection. He lifted it up, held it against his chest, and asked, "Can you tell me more about this coat?" Franklin slipped his phone into his pocket, stepping closer with a strained smile. "Handmade Italian wool from the newest collection. Very rare." "How much?" David asked. $2,500, Franklin replied, emphasizing each word, then added, "Pieces like this are meant for our premium clients. We don't usually let just anyone handle them." David set the coat back down, his voice still calm. "So some products aren't meant for regular customers?" Franklin shrugged, his face tightening. "Our regulars know what they should and shouldn't be looking at. We serve customers who appreciate quality and have the means to buy." David's hand tightened slightly on the coat's hem, but his tone stayed even. "I appreciate quality, and I think I'm interested in this one." Franklin tilted his head slightly, lowering his voice as if afraid others might hear. "I mean no offense, but perhaps you should look at pieces more within your budget. No need to waste time on something out of reach." That made David lock eyes with him. "You don't know my means. And judging someone solely by appearance is not good business." Franklin crossed his arms, his voice flat. "We have an image to maintain. We can't let just anyone handle high-end products. Our brand is built on selectivity." David took a deep breath, nodding slightly. "Selectivity by judging customers on how they look." Franklin's lips curled faintly. "Our customers value privacy. They don't want to see just anyone come in and mess with the merchandise. It's a special experience." David glanced around the store, noticing a few customers beginning to watch them. He turned back to Franklin, his voice low. "So part of your special experience is disrespecting people you decide aren't worthy?" Franklin replied, still sounding confident. "I know my customers, and I protect the store's value." David said nothing more, only nodded slightly before walking away. The door chime rang again as he stepped into the Texas sunlight. This time, he didn't pause on the sidewalk. He knew he had his answer. And tomorrow morning, he would be back, not as a customer, but as the owner of the brand. That night, David Carter barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, Franklin Moore's condescending tone echoed in his mind. It wasn't just personal insult. David knew that if Franklin treated him this way, he certainly treated many other customers the same. The next morning, the Texas sky was clear, and the early sunlight painted Dallas's downtown streets gold. David put on the exact same outfit as yesterday, dark jeans, sneakers, and a simple black jacket. He wanted Franklin to have no reason to alter his behavior. The heavy glass door swung open, the chime ringing softly. The store was quieter today, with only a few customers browsing the jewelry section. David walked straight to the display case. Under the warm light, a diamond bracelet sparkled, a masterful design he remembered personally selecting for last year's collection. He signaled to a young sales associate standing nearby. "Hello, could you show me this bracelet?" The associate glanced quickly toward the back of the room, where Franklin was speaking with Sarah Lopez, the store's assistant manager. Sarah turned her head briefly toward David, her eyes holding both worry and sympathy. The associate answered gently, "This is one of our signature pieces, made with the finest diamonds set in white gold. Its price is $15,000. David nodded. "Sounds wonderful. May I take a closer look?" Before the associate could respond, Franklin appeared, his voice cutting in. "I think you should look at pieces more in your price range." David turned to meet his gaze directly. "I want to see this one." Franklin crossed his arms, his voice cold. "We only allow customers who are truly serious about making a purchase to handle our most valuable items. Not everyone qualifies." David kept his tone even, but his gaze sharpened. And what makes you think I'm not serious? Franklin pressed his lips together. Experience. I know who can buy and who can't. My job is to protect the store's image. David stepped closer, lowering his voice. You protect the image by judging customers based on appearance? How many times have you refused service to people you deem unfit? Franklin shrugged. I run this store the way I see fit. I don't need to explain myself. David stared at him for a few seconds, then gave a slight nod. You will have to explain soon. He placed a hand on the counter, gave a small nod to Sarah, and turned to leave the store. The door chime rang again, this time like a signal that a storm was about to break over Franklin Moore. The next morning, David Carter didn't drive back to the Dallas store. Instead, he turned into a tall glass building in downtown Austin, the headquarters of Carter & Co., the luxury fashion empire he had built over the past 20 years. The large meeting room on the 18th floor was so quiet that the ticking of the wall clock was clearly audible. On the table were sales reports and the Dallas branch's audit records. David sat at the head of the table, holding a cup of black coffee, his expression calm but resolute. He had asked his assistant to arrange a meeting with Franklin Moore, under the pretext of discussing next quarter's sales strategy. David knew Franklin would show up without suspecting a thing. The door opened, and Franklin walked in wearing a deep blue suit and a burgundy tie. His face bore a confident smile tinged with curiosity. But that smile froze instantly when he saw who was sitting in the chairman's seat. Mr. Carter? His voice trembled slightly. David gave a faint smile and gestured to the chair opposite him. Please, sit down, Franklin. Franklin sat, adjusting his tie as if to summon whatever confidence he had left. I didn't expect to see you here. Is something wrong? David set his coffee cup down, his eyes never leaving Franklin's. Yes, 2 days ago, I visited your store. Not as the chairman of the company, but as an ordinary customer. And I saw firsthand how you treated me, and likely many others. The color drained from Franklin's face. He opened his mouth to speak, but David raised a hand to stop him. You didn't recognize me, and frankly, that's not the point. The point is, you judged and belittled someone solely based on their appearance. At Carter & Co., we don't build our brand on arrogance and discrimination. We build it on respect. Franklin swallowed hard. I was only trying to protect the store's image. Our customers expect exclusivity. No, Franklin, David cut in, his voice dropping lower. Our customers expect quality products and attentive service, not contempt. You've turned one of our flagship stores into a place that makes people feel unwelcome. That ends today. Franklin leaned forward, speaking quickly. Mr. Carter, please give me a chance to change. David rose, his gaze cold but composed. That chance has passed. Effective immediately, your franchise agreement is terminated. The legal department will contact you to finalize the paperwork. Security will escort you out. Franklin froze, his eyes wide in shock, then quickly shifted to anger. You'll regret this. I built that store's reputation, David replied curtly. Reputation means nothing if it's built on disrespect. Franklin glared for a moment, then turned sharply and left. The door closed behind him, leaving the room in a heavy silence. David took a deep breath, knowing he had just removed a toxic element from the system. Immediately after Franklin left the headquarters, David Carter called Emily Torres, the assistant manager of the Dallas store, whom he had noticed during his visit 2 days earlier. He had seen Emily maintain her professionalism even when Franklin was rude and dismissive toward customers. An hour later, Emily walked into a small meeting room on the 10th floor. She wore a crisp white blouse, her brown hair tied back, her expression a mix of tension and anticipation. Thank you for coming, Emily, David began, his voice warm but serious. I know the past few days haven't been easy. Emily nodded slightly. Yes, Mr. Carter, I heard the news about Mr. Franklin, and I guess everyone at the store was surprised. But maybe it was necessary. David observed her for a few seconds, then said, I chose to meet with you because I witnessed firsthand how you handled the situation with respect and composure. That is exactly what I want to represent this brand. I'd like to offer you the position of interim manager of the Dallas store. Emily's eyes widened. Me? A manager? Really? David smiled. Really? I need someone who understands customers, understands the team, and is ready to rebuild the work environment. This is not just about selling products. It's about creating an experience that makes people want to come back. Emily clasped her hands lightly, holding back emotion. If you trust me, I'll do my best. I've always believed every customer, whether just browsing or buying the most expensive item, deserves the same treatment. Exactly, David nodded. I will provide all the resources you need to succeed. We'll roll out a customer service and cultural awareness training program for the entire staff starting next week. I want everyone in the store to feel confident and proud to serve anyone. Emily smiled, the worry fading, replaced by determination. I'll start right away. The staff has been under Franklin's pressure for so long. I think they'll welcome a new direction. David stood, extending his hand. I believe so. You won't be alone. I'll be monitoring the progress, but I trust you'll lead the team in the right direction. Emily shook his hand, a firm, meaningful handshake. As she left the room, David watched her go, sensing a fresh wind about to sweep through the Dallas store, a change he believed would restore the true spirit of Carter and Toter Co. Just a few days after taking on the role, Emily Torres got to work. She arranged a meeting for the entire staff in the small conference room at the back of the store. Each person walked in with a mix of curiosity and anxiety. No one knew exactly what life at the store would be like after Franklin's departure. David Carter was there too, standing beside Emily to show his support. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice calm but firm. I want to make one thing clear. No one here is losing their job. We value each person's contribution, but from today onward, we will work to new standards, standards of respect and welcoming every customer. Emily stepped forward, her eyes scanning the room. I know not everyone agreed with how Franklin ran things. From now on, we will focus on customer service, handling difficult situations, and cultural understanding. We will have short training sessions every week, and I will work directly with each of you to ensure every customer leaves the store with a positive impression. A young employee named Ryan raised his hand. Specifically, what will the training cover, Ms. Emily? Everything from how to greet customers, invite them to try products, to how to handle situations when customers are unfriendly, Emily explained. We will also learn to recognize unconscious bias so we don't judge customers based on appearance, David added. And I want everyone to know, if you see a colleague or customer displaying discriminatory behavior, report it immediately to Emily or me. We do not tolerate that at Carter & Co. The room's atmosphere softened. Nods began to appear. The initial tension was replaced with relief. They realized they would be empowered, not managed through fear. In the following weeks, the atmosphere at the Dallas store changed dramatically. Staff proactively greeted customers, chatted openly, and invited them to try products without prejudging them. Customers began leaving positive feedback online, praising the friendliness and professionalism of the team. David often dropped by unannounced. Each time, he saw improvement, enthusiastic staff, smiling customers. Under the store's warm golden lights, Carter & Co. in Dallas finally embodied the vision he had when founding the brand, luxury without aloofness. One weekend morning, just as the Dallas store opened, the door chime rang, and in walked none other than Franklin Doyle. His suit was no longer crisp, and his face bore tired lines. Franklin's eyes swept the store, stopping at David and Emily chatting near a display case. Franklin approached, his voice lower and slower than usual. David, I know I'm the last person you want to see, but please give me a minute. David stayed silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. All right, 1 minute. Go ahead. Franklin swallowed hard, gripping a worn baseball cap. I was wrong. I let prejudice blind me. I treated customers poorly, and my own staff as well. These past weeks, I've thought a lot. I want to ask for another chance to make things right, to prove I can change. Emily remained still, not interrupting, but David could see the caution in her eyes. He looked straight at Franklin. I'm sorry, but this isn't about one mistake. I saw how you worked, how you view customers and staff. That's not something that changes in just a few weeks. Franklin stepped closer, his tone pleading. But I've learned my lesson. I'll follow every direction you give me. Just give me the store back. David shook his head. No, Franklin. The decision's been made. This store is moving forward with a new team, and Emily has proven she can do what you couldn't. Create an environment of respect, openness, and still maintain luxury standards. I can't go back to the old ways just because of a promise. The hope in Franklin's eyes vanished. He lowered his cap, nodding slightly. I understand. Good luck. Without another word, Franklin turned and left the store. The door chime rang again, then fell silent. Emily let out a quiet sigh of relief. Thank you, David. The staff will feel reassured knowing you're not changing your mind. David smiled, glancing around at the store where employees were greeting new customers. This isn't just a store, Emily. This is a statement that Carter & Co. doesn't just sell products. We treat everyone with respect, no matter who they are. The Texas morning light streamed through the glass doors, reflecting off the display cases, and David knew he had just protected not only his brand, but also the values he had built from day one.